Every successful person got there by going through tough times. Success is a hard-ass teacher who likes to knock you around along that journey. You know, it takes real guts to not give up and keep going. We'll hear stories about failures and how these leaders flip the script to create success. I'm John Schultz. Join me and let's discover how success is never really overnight. Welcome to the John Schultz podcast. We have a very exciting guest today, David Bryan, a Jersey guy, which I love, and in my area, actually. And he's an American musician and songwriter. He's the original founding member of Bon Jovi, which we all love Bon Jovi, which sold over 130 million albums. He was in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted in 2018. And he also writes Broadway musicals. So he co-wrote the music and lyrics for the musical Memphis. It won 4 Tonys, Best Book, Best Musical, and we'll get into more about that later. And also Diana, the musical, which we're also going to discuss in the show today. So welcome, David.
Thank you. How you doing, John?
I'm doing good. So, I'm so excited to have you on. I have lots of questions, but my first question is, so I have all these nieces, nephews, and even when I was younger, everyone says like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? So they'll say astronaut, fireman, ballerina, football player, and rock star. But like no one ever actually gets to do that when they get older. And here you are, a rock star. So when you were young, like what did you want to be when you were a kid?
I started classical piano when I was 7 because my father was a trumpet player. So I auditioned for this teacher and then studied for 15 years. So I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to be a classical piano player, like all kids. I wanted to be a doctor. So one of them worked out.
It's amazing. I mean, that's pretty divergent, right? So you started when you were 7. I guess you trained under, someone at Juilliard, a Juilliard professor. Is that the case?
Yeah, he was a retiree that retired in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, which was my father had a business there. So I went there at 7, not knowing how to play, and said, okay, he was playing Brahms and Schubert and Mozart and Beethoven. And I loved it so much. And when I want to do that, he's like, okay, well, don't waste my time and, know this C scale next week. And I studied with him for 13 years.
Wow. And I guess your father was a trumpet player as well. I mean, like what got you interested in music when you're young?
Yeah, it was him. He was a trumpet player he toured Europe with Hot Lips Page in like 1950, but he was a poor guy from Brooklyn. And his parents are like, don't be a bum. So he had to work in the pocketbook factory. And, and then when he taught me trumpet and I was terrible and I was like, I got to do something better. So I started piano and he always supported my my habit, if you will. He always bought me, the best instruments. And when I got older for my bar mitzvah, I got, a really cool setup. So he always supported me in equipment.
So were you just music focused? Did you play any other sports? Like what were you doing, else besides music when you were younger?
No, I did everything. I played sports. I mean, I was a decent soccer player. I played that, just everything I could get my hands on as a kid, but still put in 3 hours a day of practice.
So you were very vigilant in your practice, which to me is everything. So all right. So you did all this as a kid. You obviously kept, trying different instruments. And then you said, I may want to be a doctor. So you go to Rutgers University. And how did that come to play out, being that you had such a passion for music? I mean, it's sort of like the antithesis, if you could pick like the antithesis.
Yeah, I mean, most, everybody always says you have to have a fallback plan, so the idea of actually making the music is such a slim to none chance. So I was like good at medicine. I always wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. I was like, that's the one I want to be, because my father worked for one. So I was like, that I want to do that. And I got into Rutgers. I went there for 2 years, and I can't say I dropped out. I walked out with a 4.0 average, and I auditioned for Juilliard, got in. And at the time, John and I had been playing for years, and we got a record deal based around Runaway. So I said, well, I'm going to give this a year. Let's see what happens. So I created the gap year. And I walked out, and I've never walked back in, thank God.
So talk about that, because I think what you did there takes a lot of courage, right? Like, you were on this pursuit and doing well, right? 4.0 GPA is pretty good. And then you sort of seem to always go with your gut. Like, we hear that saying, go with your gut. And what does that mean? Most people ask. It means not being afraid to make a decision. And it just seems like from walking out to then studying at Juilliard, and then getting this call from, a contract that you don't know what that's going to be. What experiences got you to be so confident in your decisions?
I mean, hindsight is a beautiful thing, but I think at the time, being a 19-year-old, or, that was in 1983, we got signed. So I was 21. And I think at that point, it just was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And I always knew my fallback plan was, I can't be that stupid in a year. I think I can go back and just pick it up and, try that out. But I was like, this is an opportunity that's once in a lifetime. We actually got a real record deal, and let's go give this a shot.
So failure, like, I like that. The attitude was, if it doesn't work out, I'll do something else. It wasn't like that's the last decision you're going to make in your life. And I talked to so many young people in their careers early on, and that's something that I think is important, that it's not your last decision. And most of life, I guess, is finding out what you don't like, right? So that you can actually end up doing what you like, and you found that. So, okay. So now go ahead, add to that.
And that journey, when you look, and it's a lot of, like, people are just so afraid, like, it's such a fear-based world, and I was like, hey, listen, it's, I think you should be afraid if somebody has a gun at your head, or you've got diagnosed with a really bad terminal, illness. I said, but short of that, it's not, you could do it. Just do it. Swallow that fear, look at it and go, it's not my life, and walk down that road, try the best as you can in everything you do. And if it doesn't work, just get back up, brush off the dust, and walk the other way.
Which is, like, important, because I think, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. And even this podcast, like, I can look back from my first episode to now, and the evolution of what I even felt like even trying to do this, and not knowing whether, anybody would even listen or whether it would work. So here you go, you get this contract, you're 21 years old. Tell me what it was like to actually, all right, you obviously had to get things ready and set up and whatever. The first tour, you're on stage. Tell us what that felt like, and what did it actually take behind the scenes? Everyone looks at, like, okay, how the glory of being on tour, what it feels like on stage, but I'm sure there's so much that goes on that you never realize is happening to get ready.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, so we recorded that record in '83, and then in '84 we put out Runaway, and then we went to go support it. So, I mean, first it was like in a station wagon, then following Eddie Money, I think, was one of our first, put our equipment on his truck so we could have 15 gigs. And then we got a tour bus, and we went on the road with the Scorpions. We opened up for them all across America. When a tour bus pulls up to my house, it's $500,000. It's this amazing thing. And, my house is like 20 grand. So it was pretty impressive. And then we just went and really went around the planet. And at the time, our manager had a very interesting theory. Like, if you think about the stock market, his brother was an investment guy. And he said, listen, you can have one stock, or you can have 1,000 stocks. If you have 1,000 stocks, there's more of a chance that 20 of them are going to be up. So the idea was, play as many countries as you can around the world. So we just went around the world. We were broke and poor, and opened up for everybody, and stayed in, crappy hotels, and doubled up. And it was not, it's not glamorous, but we set that in motion, and it just kept coming back and coming back. And second record did better, and kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And then third was Slippery When Wet, and all of a sudden that came out, and boom, we're the biggest thing in the world.
And I mean, it must be so much energy that goes into making these records. Obviously it's different today, or maybe it's not different today. How's that process? I mean, because you guys are you're founding member with John, you got to, you have a group, you all have to sort of add value. How's that process work? And, how long does it even take to make one of these things? I know we're going to talk about your plays and how long that is, but how hard is this?
Well, I mean, first you got to get a band that's committed individuals that, don't care about the, at home life, because you're not going to be home.
Okay.
You're going to go work your butt off, and then you get into the studio, and it was the best musicians we could put together, and everybody adds their piece. And usually, like a record, early on, the record is 3 months. It takes to, first you write it, that takes about a month, and you get your songs together, and then go in and record it, and then there's the basic tracks, and then there's overdubs afterwards, where you're adding more keyboard stuff, more vocals, more guitars, and then you got to mix the thing, and then you got to go out and promote the thing. So it's a process. And then
writing a song, like how many iterations does it take? Is it come to you? Like it just seems so difficult. I know, like, people that say write books, it's like grinding it out. Is it the same feeling and process, and like you guys get in a room and yell at each other over like what should happen with this note or that word? Like how does that work?
No, it basically, to get 12 songs on a record, we write like 30, maybe 35, like, 36. You triple what you're going to use, and then kind of pare it down to the ones that just, the cream comes at the top. You just know it. And it just is or it isn't. It's a very strange thing, but you could just tell when one's a dog and one isn't. And then take the ones that aren't, and then make those the best you can, and keep adding to it, and try to find that hook, and try to have, then once you get that done, then you got to make a video. At the time, it was a new thing. So we made videos, and just trying our best to do everything that was smart, and it's all gut.
So MTV, like, was MTV, when did that, I forget what year that kicked in. Was like, what was your first video? What was it? Was it on MTV? Was it on some other format, or how did you guys do that?
No, MTV was like 81. So that was the first new medium. So then 84, we came out with our video, and, we did the best we could. It wasn't the best thing, but it was the best that we could do at the time with what we had. And the song Runaway worked. We had a top 40 hit. It worked around the world. And then we just toured it and toured it and toured it. And then, for at least a year, all of 84, and then came back to the studio in 85, wrote the second record, put that out, and went around the world again, and still opening acts, and still, we didn't make it, if you will. And then Slippery was that make or break record, because the record company's like, if you don't, if this next one isn't huge, we're dropping you.
Wow.
So it was, the first one sold 500,000 records. The second record sold 800,000, not 1 million, which is platinum. So that's what the record company's like, if you don't sell 1 million records, you're done. So we went up to Vancouver, and we had these songs, and we had this world, and we were like, what works best for us is not a slick produced record. It's more about live, because we're a live band and we're great. So let's have a live feeling. Then we shot the video, let's do a live video. That was 86. I was 24. And then that came out, and we sold 30 million records around the world, 15 inside, 15 out.
Do you think the video projected that, helped that, the sales, or like, what do you think? What do you think it was? Was it the record itself, or was it the combination of the market? Did marketing actually propel that, or no?
Yeah, it's a combination. I think when you have to be, it's like you're just honest, like when it comes in, like, we're a live band. We were great live. We thought our records were a little slick and produced more than they needed to be, too many guitar parts, too many keyboard parts. We're like, let's just pare it down to what we do live. And then let's make a live video. And that's what, let's put our strong points first. And that's all we have. And that's what we're true to. And then I think that just rang true. Like, You Could Love a Bad Name, right? When that needle came down on the record, the whole world just like, boom. It
So
all
the
makes
lesson
sense.
the lessons: be yourself, be true to what you really are, even though maybe you were being pushed a little the other way. And then it actually worked at that time, but you got a lot of good experience. So how is it when you first walk on stage that first time, like filling a stadium? I mean, like, I remember when I was young, I played a soccer game in front of the Cosmos. I'm aging myself, but I was like pre-Cosmos game. I scored a goal. People were actually there. I heard the crowd actually cheer for my goal. I'll never forget that. That's the only little bit of adrenaline I'll ever get in that way. And you're getting it, day after day and concert after concert. Does that ever get old? And like, how does it feel for the first time?
No, I mean, it'll never get old. And remember, when we first started out, there wasn't a lot of love. You're a new band. We're opening up for Judas Priest. We opened it up in Canada. They're heavy metal, and people like they hated us. Throwing shit at us. Giving us the finger. So our job was to win them over. So our skin got pretty thick. So we kept winning over and winning over because you're an opening act. So you have 45 minutes, and nobody really wants to see you or know you. And we became victorious every night. That was our challenge, was to change that middle finger into a hand clap, and just did it and did it and did it. And then finally, when now we're a headliner, people love you, you're like, well, this is a lot better than people giving you the finger.
Yeah, it must feel so good when you walk out there, you're the headliner for the first time, a stadium full of people, and everyone knows the words to your songs. It's got to be incredible.
It's the best. It's just like, what did I say? I was thinking about the other day. I wrote this down. I said, life is what you do while you're waiting to get back up on stage.
There you go. Listen, the only thing I ever got was one time I was backstage, and I just felt the energy. It was unbelievable. So who do you think? I mean, when you're so young and you're just making gutsy decisions, because you know what you did, you weren't afraid to take on risk and try something, knowing that if you failed, you can come back. Who was the most influential person during all those decisions for you?
It's funny. It's like my parents were supportive just because they saw, this little maniac playing at least 3 hours a day. And then, when I started my audition for Juilliard, 2 years before I was ready for that, I ramped it up to 8 to 14 hours a day. I went from the pre-med part of Rutgers, I dropped down to just music, so they were like, whatever this kid is doing, he's, they at points they would go, can you stop playing? We need to sleep. I'm like, no. So
you're addicted.
I'm a goal-oriented person, and I wanted to achieve that. And I can grade myself, and I'm like, if I'm not ready yet, I'm not ready yet. And the only way to get ready is to more work. There's no substitute for work.
So is that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour thing? Obviously, you probably did more than 10,000 hours.
Yeah, I had 10,000 hours in when I was 11. So it was funny, as my uncle, my godfather, was a big influence on me. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm going to drop out of school. I'm not going to go to Juilliard. I'm going to take this band and I'm going to do it. And he came to a show. We were playing in Asbury Park, a place called Xanadu, which is now Porta. And it was on Thanksgiving. There was 4 people in the club. It was freezing out. And those 4 people were my mother, father, my aunt, and my uncle. So my uncle Tommy says to me, he goes, I think you're making a big mistake. He goes, I said, Unc, let me give it a year. If it doesn't work out, I won't be that stupid. And he says, he just passed away last year, but he had always said, he goes, thank God you didn't listen to me.
Well, it just showed your conviction. I mean, because like you said, he was influential to you. You could easily just have listened, right? But you have to, again, go with your gut. And I love your attitude. Let me give it a year. Like nothing's your last or final decision, the way I'm hearing you, right? And I'm sure you do that in everything in your life, which is why you're so successful. So, all right. So you've had some other issues go on during your career. One of them I read was you had this finger accident. So when was that? Like a saw or something happened with your finger?
I've had some unfortunate, stupid accidents like that, but I've survived them all. That was just another chink in the armor. But I go, nothing's going to stop me. So yeah, it was a stupid thing I was doing. And I paid for it, and then I recovered.
Right. And what kept you motivated during that? The same concept of that you're never going to not be what you're doing right now, and you just got through it? Or because it's easy to for that not to happen.
Yeah, for me it always was. My piano teacher's name was Emery Hack in Perth Amboy, and when I heard him play for the first time when I was 7 out of this brown piece of wood, you're a 7-year-old, I didn't even know anything, and he was playing such beautiful music. It was so magical, and I went, I need to learn that trick. I gotta be able to do that. And that's really what always is my motivator in every way, shape, and form, through through stupid accidents or whatever life throws you. And, there's a lot of hardships and a lot of crap life throws you. And that's the one love that, I never needed to go to rehab. I never wanted to party more than I wanted to play my music. Music to me was more important than a lifestyle. That to me was my lifestyle. That defined me. So that's always been it's just, I could sit down at the piano now, go up at a friend's party and just sit down and play, play and sing Wanted Dead or Alive, and the whole place goes crazy, and you're like, it's a good party trick, it still works.
And that was your North Star, and you kept with it, right? Like you said, like, I can't imagine the attention, the craziness that, being as such a famous, band as you guys are, and like all the things that could come and like crash you down. And you really, I give you kudos. You stuck with what mattered to you and what mattered for you to stay successful.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So, all right. So you have this band, is there a lot of downtime? Like, how's that work? Right. You have a tour, you got downtime. Like what is it, fits and stops? Like, how does that work? Is it a 365-day a year thing that you were focused on this, practicing or writing music? How's that go?
I mean, literally, I left my parents' house because I still was living there. I was 22 in 1984, and I came home in 90. And I probably was home for 6 months and 6 years. Wow. And we just worked like me. When we weren't on tour, we'd come home, take a week break, and then right back into the studio and do it. You got to, just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And then finally, in 1990, I think we all just were like, we got off the bullet train. You kind of roll for a little bit after you jump off. And, just, that was probably the biggest. I was home for like 2 years, and it was good. We all needed it. We needed it. We all regrouped, and then marched on forward. Not to the craziness schedule, but we still were pretty crazy in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then we got, then the world of alternative music, Nirvana came out and kind of crushed our music, but not in the rest of the world, just in America. So we just kept our, nose to the grindstone there, and just kept going and going and going, and got bigger in the rest of the world, and still fought for America. And then 2000, It's My Life comes out, and people are like, they're back. You're like, we never left. And
I love that.
And we kept going, and then, the last couple of years, we've slowed it down to, we normally do 110 shows in 30 countries. And that would take like a year and maybe 14 months, a year and a couple of months. And then we basically have slowed that down to 30 or 40 shows a year, and then just do it over a couple of years.
Wow. So it's just nonstop. It's like the work never stops. The passion for almost obsession never can stop. Because like you said, that one album was great. The second was okay, but it could end, right? Unless you get back there and do it. It's really in any industry. It's innovating, right? Like you're innovating with music. Other people are innovating with technology and other things. And if the minute you stop, it's over. So when did Broadway enter your world? Obviously, you play so many instruments. Obviously, you're into all music. How did that enter your world?
That was I got a script from an agent on Memphis, and it was about the first white DJ to put black music on the radio in 1950, when in Memphis, Tennessee, it was illegal for a black person and a white person to be married, let alone hold hands or touch, or it was and the birth of rock and roll. So I was in that first band I played with John, was a 10-piece band called Atlantic City Expressway. And we had a horn section. We played all those Memphis songs, like Hold On, I'm Coming, In the Midnight Hour, Knock on Wood. So I kind of knew that. I read the script.
So this was pre you actually getting that contract, the Atlantic City Expressway?
Yeah, that was the first band I joined, John's band, in 1978. In the summer, I had my driver's permit. I was 16 and a half. And that's how we started the club world. And then I love that kind of music. And then when this opportunity came, I called up my collaborator, Joe DiPietro, and I said, I hear all these songs. I know what I'm doing. And he's like, okay, send me a couple, pick one and send me a song. So on that show, I picked the music of my soul, because I thought that was the heartbeat of our hero, if you will, our main character. And I sent it to him. Like, I talked to him at 12 o'clock. I knew FedEx was 6:30 was the pickup because there wasn't internet then, no good internet. I went down to my studio. I immediately finished writing the song. I got a drum track going. I played piano. I played bass. I played organ. I put on the horn parts. I sang it. I sang backgrounds. I burned it to a CD, made it to the FedEx guy, and it was on his porch at 10 o'clock in the morning the next day. And,
I love that.
We haven't stopped since.
How did you meet this gentleman? Was he just someone you knew, or he reached out for you?
Just through an agent. Like I had a friend who was an agent, and then his agent, and they were looking around, and he was a Broadway guy, and he was looking for a real rock guy, not a Broadway sound, authentic. And I never did it before, and I just read the script, and I saw that not only do I love the music, I love the message. It's all about, music brings us together, not separates us. And here we are, still talking about that, but I know I did my part in the world to, make the world more at peace.
I love that. I love that. So, all right. So it went on to be a crazy success, right? We said best book, best musical, best lyric. What was the other award?
Best orchestrations.
Best orchestration. Unbelievable. Did that ever go on a road show too, or was that just on Broad? How long was that on Broad? Is it still there? Or?
No, it played for 4 years. It did 1,166 performances.
Wow.
Not that I know that. And then we did a national tour for a couple of years. I think that was 2 or 3 years. Then it went into licensing. So it's been around America and around the planet all the time. There's at least 500 to 1,000 productions every year in 30 countries.
Oh, that's terrific. Talk about longevity, right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. And then you have this other one, I guess we mentioned at the beginning, Diana. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had Joe DiPietro and I were actually working on another musical. And he said, hey, what about a musical on Princess Diana? I was like, wow, that's a great idea. So we stopped the other one. We started with that one. And it was like it was a big challenge because nobody sings in the real, nobody sings except for God Save the Queen or, now or God Save the King. And,
right. Exactly.
with all due respect, but so we had to create this fantasy, and it was a blessed project. It was like, it went really quick. It was great. We get to Broadway, we raise all this money, it's a big raise, it's like $19 million to get it to open the curtain. It took us, it was the fastest one ever in 4 years from pen to paper. We were on Broadway. And then, as bad luck would have it, the last pandemic was 1918. And then I got faced with and no business plan do you have a line item that says pandemic.
No, it's terrible. And listen, entertainment got hurt worse, right? I mean, if you were on tour, the same thing would have happened. So it's like 100% shutdown. That's it. Nothing you can do about it. There's no contingency plan. So
nothing. So, we were down for that year. We had 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So after about a year, we were like, I don't know about this curve. And we had an opportunity to put it on Netflix. So we went into the theater under this protocol. I had to be, it cost us so much extra money, but we had to be like sequestered in our rooms. You couldn't see anybody. I had to eat alone. I couldn't have my wife and nobody. I had to stay in
So you
room.
lived in the bubble. It's like that bubble they were talking about for sports, right?
Correct.
Same thing?
Yeah. And so we did it. We filmed it. It came out, and I'm proud as hell of it. And then COVID was done. We went back on Broadway. We were doing great. Word of mouth was great. Building. And then Omicron came out, and boom, killed us and 15 other shows, and still is murdering. It's still murdering Broadway.
I was there last night or Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night. It was packed. That block that has all the Broadway shows. I guess maybe it's just the weekends. I don't know. I feel like since September kicked in, it seems like a little bit more velocity is going on. I hope that continues, but
hopefully it's still pretty bad. I mean, when you see Phantom of the Opera, it never recovered. A lot of shows just close. It's just people are still afraid of coronavirus. If somebody gets sick in the show, then they shut that down. It's
tough. It's very hard.
It's just really hard. New York isn't, exactly so together as it was a couple of years ago. So it's a challenge.
Well, hopefully we all get through it, right? I think pendulum swing, and I'm hopefully it's swinging the other way. So this went on Netflix, right, Diana?
Yes, and it's still there. You can still see it. And
So
just click away.
So the streaming world, right? Like that's the whole new. So I got a question about that. So here you are. You're the epitome of what a rock band is and wants to be for so many years. Longevity that's crazy. Music's changed so much today, right? You know, you got Spotify on the scene and all these streaming networks. You got NFTs. You know, so being that you have such good IP, being all your content, you people as individuals doing such a great job your whole lives. How has that changed for a band like yourself that, you know, still going, but all these other things, you know, where it's new in the business, right? It's not a record, it's a stream. It's like, you know, how's that affecting what you do, and has it helped or hurt you? And where do you see this music thing going?
You know, there's never a substitute for live. There just isn't, you know, and even like the Diana filming had no audience. So we had to create a hybrid because you didn't have that energy of people there. So we created this hybrid. And then in rock and roll, it's, you know, there's no energy. You know, it's all right for looking at old videos or looking at stuff. You know, we did during the pandemic just to help the world. You know, we played and came up with, you know, we wrote a new song, Do What You Can, and went out and at least on the screens could at least just try to, you know, entertain people. But truly, I think the arts is really tough because there's no substitute for standing in that audience and feeling the energy of humans.
I totally agree. I think it's going to come back and back bigger than ever. I think you feel, like you said, the energy that you feel when you're out with a bunch of people listening to something that you like. It's like like-minded people at a like-minded place. You get this extra thing that you never get unless you're there. And you know, hopefully that's going to continue. I mean, the same thing with Broadway. I think eventually it's, you know, again, it's, you guys are running through all these new protocols on how to operate, so it makes it harder. But look at football, sports, everything is so important to our culture. And how have you capitalized or not capitalized on like these non-fungible tokens, or like, have you guys delved into any of that stuff, or, you know, the metaverse? And you know, obviously you have the brand and the, you know, image to be and take part. Have you looked into any of that or no?
Not in that world, not in the tokens and that. It's such a kooky world. It was like doing so great, now it's doing so bad.
Right.
So it's, you know, it's definitely a roller coaster, and it's a new world. So we're kind of hanging on the sidelines to see what that new world is. We have an online presence, you know. I think, you know, between our Instagrams and Facebook and Twitter, you know, there's millions of people, you know, that follow us. So we can put out messages and content through that. So that's about where we're at.
It's so funny. If you look at TikTok, right, and like what influencers are today, you look at, you know, the D'Amelios of the world, and like now they're doing brand deals. You know, Kevin Hart Rock, they got hundreds of millions of followers. You know, Kardashian, you know, starting a private equity fund. This direct to consumer distribution and not relying, I guess, on the Facebooks and all these platforms eventually are going to be, and you guys have that. So, and to have that being, you know, around so long and still have all your fans is amazing. So at the end of the day, I think, you know, we're going to see the change. I think COVID sort of amplified certain things and, you know, sort of held back others, and we'll see how that goes. So, okay. Here you are today. You know, now a new tour. How exciting is that? When is this happening? And, you know, what made you guys want to do it?
Well, next year is actually our 40th anniversary. So in '83, we recorded the record. So next year is the anniversary of getting the band around Runaway. And that next year is the 40th of putting the record out, putting Runaway out. So it'll be the next couple of years we're going to go on tour. And this year we did 15 shows in April in America, indoor arenas, just to get back on the road and, you know,
feel it,
apply our craft, just to feel it again. It was like, it was so great to be on stage. You know, it's like we're like a racehorse, just, you know, in the barn. You know,
I like that. That's a great analogy. I love that. So now you're out of the barn, and when's this kicking off?
Next year. You know, we're loosely planning when it's all going to happen and how it's a big thing you know, we're going to roll out a whole bunch of things that have to do with the 40th anniversary.
That's
So I'm
exciting.
excited.
That's so
Yeah.
exciting. Wow. I guess you're gonna have to start working out more and getting ready, right? I mean, like you're gonna get back to that old life of like, I guess you must pack well too, right? If you're only home for 6 months for, in 10 years, I'm sure you pack well, which is good.
Used to it. Even like the preparation. I mean, the prep time is a lot. Like for that 15 shows this past April, we started 4 months before that. First it's getting your body in shape. So, cause I sing, so I got to work out and sing and then get back to playing scales and get my fingers to be at the best that they could be. Then relearning and reacquainting myself with the songs that I forgot, or, you just get a little rusty. So get all the rust off. Then we had band practice for a month and then you do it. So it's, it's a lot of prep to.
Yeah. It's
to
like
walk
getting
on that
ready for the
stage.
Olympics. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
I mean, I think people don't fully understand what and appreciate what you guys have to go through to get ready for this thing. It's daunting. I mean, you're not right. Like the sleep patterns even, right? I'm sure like you have to really like figure out how to keep yourself sane during those times, but you guys, you figured it out. You look great. I can't wait to see this. And I want to thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
Stories like yours are inspiring because like all the little tidbits of information that I learned about you during this just showed you're a man of conviction, and you never waver. You might have had your ups and downs, but you never waver. You sought advice, but you still trusted your own self to take your own advice, which I think most people sometimes are scared to do. And look where it landed you. And I'm so happy that Brian Ansell, I told him to give him a shout out for introducing us. He's our both
Thanks, Brian.
friend. We love
For a long
Brian.
time.
And again, so hopefully everyone that watches this will go see your show. I know I can't wait to get out there and see it. And again, I want to thank you for coming. Is there anything else you want anyone to know? Where you got your Instagram site, you got all your sites. I'm sure they know you're famous enough where you probably don't have to say that anymore. But thank you for coming.
No, you're welcome. It's a good thing, like we talk about entrepreneurship, like you're a businessman, and the idea is when people are starting out that journey, a lot of them are just riddled by the greatest example about fear, right? I said Joe DiPietro and I were starting our second musical. So we had all the success in Memphis, right? And I was like, so once we did the red carpet and we won all these Tonys, people are like, we have another show coming out. They're like, are you worried about, how successful it's going to do? I'm like, no, I already got 4 Tonys. I go, and then we started to work and Joe was like, I don't know about that. Or I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And I said to him, I go, you can't say no before we say yes. We have nothing to say no to. Write a shitty song, put a shitty idea down, get it done, and then we'll run out of the shitty ones and we'll get to the good ones. But
that should be a bumper sticker. Yeah. I love that. Like you have nothing to say no to. You got to say yes to get something going. It's easy to just do nothing, right? You get paralyzed.
Yeah, and so write something bad. And then when you write something bad, eventually you're going to run out of bad.
I love that. Well, I think you ran out of bad very long time ago and continue to run out of bad, but at least you keep trying to find that good. Again, congratulations on your new tour and coming out in 40 years. That's amazing. And we all look forward to, the whole audience and me will look forward to coming out and supporting you. So thanks again.
Definitely. Thank you.